Hey guys, I'm Mackenzie from A Cup of Life. If you've been following along with the God's Perfect Timing series, we're getting close to the end here. We have this one and then one more video after this. This one is called Calling Change. So if you feel like God is changing your calling right now, or He has in the past, this is for you. I really hope that this can just be hopeful and encouraging to you. I've gone through many seasons where God has changed my calling on me, and it can be really, really difficult, but I just want to kind of share my story, share some stories from the Bible, just how it all relates together, and then just kind of like how to approach calling change and just like how to respond to it, because it can be really difficult. So I know I'm just always changing things, which it's kind of funny because this entire series is about change. But quick little update. I bought a chair. This is like my first real adult purchase. Really love it and wanted to show it to you guys. But other than that, we're gonna jump right into this video here. If you've been to college, you've probably heard some sort of statistic that only 20-something% of college graduates end up getting a job in their career field or in their degree field. That can be kind of a scary statistic when you're going through college. And for a really long time, I thought that if you graduated and didn't get a job in your degree field, I kind of had like some misconceptions about it. I thought that it was either there weren't enough jobs in certain fields to employ enough people, or that if you didn't get a job in like related to your field of study, that you were a failure. So I kind of had that misconception for a long time, but the real story here is that sometimes God changes our calling, and that is okay. So for those of you that don't know, I just graduated college this past December with a degree in music education. However, I'm currently working for a ministry in my hometown, so I am not using my degree per se, but I do still like do musical things, like I play piano and guitar and sing and everything. But yeah, God just kind of changed things up on me. So here's kind of my story and how I responded to that change. So I have some notes with me, so if I'm looking down, I'm just kind of reading over to make sure that I'm on the right track for this video. But if we look at the 12 disciples, all of them, before Jesus called them to follow Him, were doing something else, right? I'm not going to read the verses for you just because there are a lot of them, but I've left them down in the description for you, so you can read it on your own time. But if we look at Andrew, Peter, James, and John, they were fishermen before they became a disciple of Jesus. Matthew was a tax collector. And there are several of the disciples that there's just not enough documented history for us to know what their careers were, but we know that they had to have been doing something before God called them to be a disciple, right? So when you read through all of these different scriptures that kind of lay out, when each of the disciples was called to follow Jesus, as you're reading, you learn in pretty much every situation, Jesus says, "Follow me," and they all stopped what they were doing and they followed Him. That's at least the way that the Bible describes it, and I like to think that it happened exactly like that, where they just dropped what they were doing and immediately went and followed Jesus. There wasn't any time of hesitation for them. They just went and followed. And I just think that their example of obedience and faith is such a great example for us, that when God calls us to do something, why are we always so hesitant towards it, when the disciples just literally dropped what they were doing right there and then and went with Jesus. Overall, we're all called to follow Jesus. When I had about a year left of college, God began to make it very clear to me that when I graduated, I would not be pursuing a career in music education. And for any of you that have watched the second video in this series called My Direction Change, I've left the link down below for that one if you want to check it out. But I kind of tell the story of how I started as a nursing major, and then God called me into music education. And during that kind of in-between phase where I knew what was coming next, but I still had to finish what I had started. So I had switched my major in the middle of the semester and still had to go to all of my nursing classes for another couple of months. And that season was really difficult because I had no motivation to finish, because I already knew what was gonna like I already knew the change that was going to be coming for the next semester. And so when I started to realize that God was kind of calling me out of the music education track, I didn't get like to the point that it was with the whole nursing situation, but there definitely were, some times in there where I really struggled to have motivation because I already knew what was coming in the future, but the future was still too far away that I still had to finish what I had started with music education. So then fast forwarding to the internship I did in Zambia last year. The whole summer, I had like no direction or clarity. That was like the one thing I prayed for all summer long because I had no idea what I was gonna do when I graduated. I just, nothing was clear to me and it was really, really frustrating. But during one of the classes that we had, we talked about our calling and like who God made us to be. And the teacher of that lesson introduced your what and your how. So your what is what you've been called to do because it's how God wired you. In order to figure out what your what is, you need to first know who you are. Things like your giftings, talents, passions, all of that. It's all those things that make you who you are. It makes you unique. The really cool thing about this is that once we've figured out what those things are and we start walking in those, God gets so excited about that because He has made us unique and made us who we are for a reason. And when we finally tap into that and realize our full potential and who He's made us to be, He just gets so excited just that we're walking fully in that. So altogether, your calling is rooted in how God has wired you. And then your why wasn't really talked about so much in the lesson, but I've included it in just because I think it's good to understand why your what is what it is. Sorry, that's gonna get really confusing. And then your how is the platform that allows you to take your what and why and put it into action. So after that lesson, the wheels kind of started to turn in my head and I was kind of trying to figure out okay, what is my what? I don't even know anymore because if you know from previous videos, I didn't have music that summer, which is how I was originally identifying myself. So this is kind of overlapping with the last video about identity change. I was in the middle of kind of trying to figure out who I was in Christ, but then also who He's made me to be, and then how that's going to be used as a calling in my life. So as I'm wrestling with that, I remember this one night I went into the computer lab and I don't know. I got this idea to search for a career aptitude test because I was I just need to go back to the drawing board, and I was hoping that it would help me kind of figure out who I am, my giftings and talents and things like that. And so I literally just typed in career aptitude test and I found this awesome test online. I'm leaving the link down below because it was so good. It's called Sokanu. It's completely free. It's very in-depth and extensive. It does take about 45 minutes to take it, but it is so worth it if you really need some direction in your life. And you can go check it out. There are hundreds of different careers, and as you are taking the test and clicking on the different answers, the tiles are constantly flipping and adjusting based off of your answers. So that was really cool because as I was taking it, I saw a music teacher come up, but then it would keep going away and it just was shifting. It was really cool. It was really helpful for me. Go take it if you think it would help you. So when I get to the end of this test, the number one thing that came up for me was videography. I just really loved it, but I never really thought that it would extend beyond a little hobby that I had on the side. So what is my what? I kind of made a list of different things, different passions and giftings and talents. So these are the things that excite you most. So this is what excites me most. I love missions and traveling, specifically overseas. I love videography, music, and stories. And so I was kind of just sitting there trying to figure out, what do I do with this? And I just felt God was saying, you're gonna be a missionary videographer. So basically, I'm gonna do international mission work and I'm gonna help be the storyteller. So my why is one, because that's how God's wired me, but the more in-depth answer is that I've seen this huge disconnect between America and the other side of the world, specifically in Africa, because that's what I've seen. But in America, there are like those kind of like commercials and stuff on TV, or like little ads that pop up that are like, you know, give 25 cents a day and you can feed an orphan for a month. And like those things are great, and if you feel called to do that, or like called to sponsor a child, like those things are awesome. Really encourage you to do it. But I just feel like there's like that disconnect, like that's the only level that we ever get to, and we never really see or hear the stories that are going on over there, because there's so much more than that. So I feel called to bridge that gap specifically through visual storytelling. So my how is something that I'm still kind of stuck on. I have a couple of different leads, however the doors aren't open right now. The how, where, when, that comes in God's timing. It's in God's perfect timing. I'm currently just holding on to what my what and why are, and waiting for the opportunity whenever God does open that door for me. So I would love to hear what your what, why, and how are. You can leave it in the comment section down below, or if you want to email it to me, my email is in the description. I'd love to hear, like, even if it's just a simple, like, this is what it is, or if you want to give me an explanation of it, that's great as well. We are all called to ministry, whatever that looks like. Like, ultimately, we are called to follow Jesus. However, our whats, whys, and hows are all going to look different, yet they all serve a purpose in building the kingdom of God. Once you've figured out what your what and your why are, and even your how, then you got to take that and you just follow God wholeheartedly with that, with who He's made you to be and how He has wired you. So my encouragement for you today, if you are stuck on what your what, why, and or how is, that's gonna get confusing because of those weird tenses. If you are confused, like, please pray for clarity and direction. First of all, like, that is where you should start. The next thing you can do is write out a list. Like, literally just take 10 minutes and write out all of the different things that you love, like different giftings, talents, just passions of yours. Just get it out on paper, because it's so much easier when you can visualize it. If you think taking that career aptitude test would be helpful for you, go ahead and do that. I know it was helpful for me, might not work for you, but I recommend it if it's something you're interested in. And then just overall, be willing and present wherever you're at. Wherever God has placed you for this season of your life, it might not be the ultimate end goal for you, but everywhere you are, whether that is you're in school, or you're working, or you are a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, or whoever you are, wherever God has placed you, you are in the mission field. Missions is not limited to being overseas anywhere, or being in a third world country, or anything like that. You are a missionary wherever you go, because it's a posture of your heart. That's all I've got for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this was encouraging for you, or helpful in any sort of way. If you're going through a season like this right now, just rely on the Lord, and remember that change is a good thing. Change is healthy. As a reminder, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button. If you know somebody who needs to hear this today, share this with them. Please share this with them, and come back next week for the final video in this series. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next time.